everybody, welcome to the Trouble Show. Today we've got royalty in the house today, let's just say it. Miki Agrawal, welcome as our troublemaker today. You are a social entrepreneur, author of 2 incredible books, Disrupt Her and Do Cool Shit, which we're going to hear a bit about. A catalyst for creativity and innovation, which I absolutely adore. In a world that I see, we're all just being lined up and being treated like numbers. So we're really going to dig into that theme today. Miki, you fly in the face of the norm and you defend and you demand that we go off track, that we actually reach into some of our inner uniqueness and lean into our mischief, is how I would put it. You embrace the moments of struggle in the world, right from birth all the way through life, to solve big problems in the world, which I think is really, really heroic. And I think I want to dig into that today. You are rooted in fearlessness. Now, in a society where people are peddling fear, I really would love to hear about how you overcome that. And you are definitely not scared to talk about your butthole, which I absolutely adore. And we're gonna dig into Tushy a little bit. Look, not only do you have this social side, but you're massively successful in business as well, including Tushy. And I have the product to prove it. Oops,
Let's go.
yeah, there we go. We can't see it. I'll have to put in
That's the stool. That's not the tushy bidet, but that's our
that's the
stool.
stall. And you're also reaching into some new efforts. We're going to talk a little bit about Hero later. So welcome to the show. Rather than just a boring bio, I know that you do a lot of deep work, a lot of deep journeying. Why don't you introduce yourself through what you've just been? I know you've done Darkness Retreat, you've done Vision Quest, ayahuasca in the Amazon. Tell us a little bit about yourself through those experiences.
Well, thank you, and nice to meet you and be with you in this beautiful on this Friday day. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I just, I grew up with a Japanese mother and an Indian father in French Canada, really being given the permission to question everything and just, say like every dinner table conversation was a debate. There was no one perspective and one answer to anything, because the Japanese perspective is completely different from the Indian perspective, which is completely different from the French Canadian perspective, which is completely different from the American perspective. And so all the perspectives are so different and there's no right answer. And I think we get so pigeonholed in like, I'm right and this concept is right. But it's like, no, it's a perspective and it's valid, but it's not the only answer. It's kind of like the parable with the 3 blind men and the elephant, the parable.
Please fill me in.
Yeah, the parable of the 3 blind men and the elephant is basically, there's 3 blind men that kind of walked up to an elephant and one of them touched like the tusk, and it's like, an elephant is really like rigid and bony, and the other one's like, no, it's not, it's hairy and why, because it's touching the body. One of them's touching this trunk and it was like, actually no, it's bendy and kind of wet and like kind of whatever. And so none of them are wrong, they just have a different perspective. And that's the thing about the world that we live in. It's like left wing, right wing, black, white. It's just like, versus like there's a spectrum of color in every shade and everything. And there's always a different way of entering a project, an idea, a concept, anything. And so I think I just learned at an early age that it's just, perspectives are endless. We can basically decide what our perspective is and be strong in our perspective. And we also are okay being wrong in our perspective. And so
with so many inputs, how did you not get confused? Like, how did you then decide what was right for you with so many wonderful, colorful alternatives?
I think that's the beauty about that, is that you really have to check in with your authentic truth, and you have to like close your eyes and say, what feels good, what makes sense, like what hits my gut with a yes. Like, so it's almost a practice of like the gut check. And I think we often ignore our guts, we ignore like the truth, and we just kind of heady our way through like the relationships, projects, ideas, like whatever, because you're like, I think people are going to want me to say this and they're going to respond this way, but it's actually not true. And then it comes out sideways, and then you're inauthentic anyways, or you're authentically angry on the sidewaysness. And so it's like, might as well just be true. And and check in with like, is this my guts truth? And I think that's a practice based on all the inputs coming in, being like, yes or no, yes, no. And again, I could be wrong, but it's what's true for me. And I can hold on to that. That feels good.
Yeah, and you've obviously worked that muscle, obviously from what you were born into, the way that you were encouraged to think, the debates at the table. I'm pretty sure everyone else just gets told, we're voting red, we're voting blue, or this is how we think about the world. So sort of spouting sort of that very narrow-mindedness. So,
Yeah.
you do reach into the world. So tell us about how you keep, I guess, keeping authentic to yourself. How do you keep finding yourself and deeper ways to serve the world?
Yeah, I mean, I, I think like the people, when people ask me like, what's the number one most important thing about being an entrepreneur, I just say like cultivating your community, like building your friend group and really showing up for them, even when you're in the midst of like launch and there's so much going on. I still show up for my friends' birthday parties, even if it's for 30 minutes, just to like be there. Or I show up for my friends, their events and their things and the things that they, like it's a there's a real beautiful energetic reciprocity of like friendship that happens when shit's going down and it's really hard. And my friends are so there for me when things are hard for them. We're so there for them when it's a time to celebrate each other. We're so like celebrating each other's victories, and I think that just is such a fuel for growth for me. And then of course my friends, just we travel the world together. I've been to 7 continents, all 7 continents in the last couple of years with my friends, and we our friends who live across the world somehow manage to see each other almost every month. And then on the weekends, I mean, we've built a crazy community here in Austin. That's awesome. And yeah, community is everything. And you can, home is where the heart is. You can make anything an incredible experience if you're with the people that you love.
Oh, that's great. What are some of your top memories? I mean, 7 continents. I mean, you've pretty much done a lap of the world in a
Yeah.
very deep and meaningful way, sharing it with others that you love and support. What are
Yeah.
some of those highlights for you? What really took your breath away?
Yeah. Well, my twin sister, she started Daybreaker, which is the early morning dance movement. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Hey, I was doing
Yeah.
it through COVID. That's crazy.
Yes. So my twin sister started Daybreaker, and it's 10 years strong, and it's incredible. It's a global dance movement. It's incredible. And she also started these trips called Wow It's Now. And they're like these once in a lifetime legendary trips. Like the first one was in Antarctica. And it's like imagine like a piano player on the ice shelf performing while everyone has like sound like the
Quite a
headphones on.
disco. Yeah.
Yeah, while watching the penguins and like listening to classical music to a grand piano, like or going in one of those, doing a deep cold plunge into the Antarctic Ocean, and just like and then of course the best DJs from the world, like the founder of Cirque du Soleil was the DJ, and we had different theme nights on the boat. Everyone stayed on the boat together. It was truly the most life-changing. Then the next trip they did was in Egypt, which was going to like all the top the pyramid, the temples, like all of the most amazing like you can't make this up, like the types of temples, but having long table, like wedding style dinners inside the temple walls that it hasn't been done in the history of ever. And so it's just the accent, like we went hot air balloon riding over the pyramids. It was incredible. Best DJs again, just I mean, doing early morning yoga as the sun's coming up to a different temple. It's just magic. Then the next one was in Tanzania, which we just came back from. And being in the Serengeti, and again, hot air balloon rides with, music playing while we're watching the animals migrate, the great migration of the Serengeti of the animals. So like seeing zebras and all the animals just migrate to like beautiful music while we're just bursting into tears, and the best African DJs performing in the middle of literally the Serengeti where there's prides of lions chasing and we're like dancing in the middle of it. It was just unbelievable experiences. And then of course we've been to Italy with friends for our friends' birthdays. We've been to South America, we've been to Europe, we've been to the Middle East. I went to the World Cup. Like it's just our friends are just so down, you know.
So it sounds like it's interesting hearing these experiences. So first of all, you're in places in the world that are truly epic all on their own, and then it feels like you're also bringing that channeling energy of music and movement
Yeah,
and sort of bringing that all together to make it just an even more, I guess, all immersive sensory experience as you're
totally.
watching real world. So it's not like some digital locked away laser show. It's like, no, here we are in the world,
Yeah.
getting it intensified by beauty that
Yeah.
was creative, but all creative, right? My body, the music,
The
the
whole,
world.
the full sensorial experience. It's the community, the curation of the people who come. And then it's the experience, the wowness of where we are, coupled with the music, the best dance, the most embodied experiences. Plus, there's talks from like like just some of the best leaders of the local, like, nations. And so we got to learn about the culture, but from the leaders, it's like full sensorial experience. I can't, check out wowitsnow.com. It's incredible.
So how do you take all of that? You're having these amazing experiences every month. How do you bring that into your businesses? Because I know that you're all about serving others. And I think I read somewhere on your website, that is bliss, right? You're given a gift to somehow contribute to this world and serve others. So how do you take all that and decide and do what you do?
I mean, it's just pure inspiration, right? I was just in Amazon rainforest over New Year's and just being with the Sapra tribe who've never been to the modern world. You're flying to the deep 88 million acres to the heart of the lungs of the planet. And then you just get dropped off and the plane leaves and you're there for 12 days with just the people who've never seen the modern world. And you're just their nature. They're literally from the forest. And to be able to sit with them and do medicine with them and to like understand their symbiotic nature with the planet and to go back and take that with me. And then to share that, I did a symposium for my birthday in Austin. Instead of just having like a party, I had a symposium that we did in the Amazon, that learned about what's happening to our planet, where we fit in, like how we can support, like what's our part that we're playing. And I took that symposium and I brought it to Austin and shared it with 60 friends. And so now they're all thinking about their purpose and their connectivity to the planet and how they want to support. And they're like, I'm going to do garbage cleanup for my birthday on beaches. And I'm going to go and, also whatever. I'm going to start I've just sold my company. So my next company is going to be in the sustainability space because I was so inspired by this. Or like, it's just a ripple effect of positivity and change. And it's not just like, oh, that was fun, like bucket list. It was bucket list meets inspiration, meets sharing, meets letting it continue, and continue to inspire others. And so I always see these experiences opportunity for inspiration for myself, and then to, come back with bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and share my experiences with others, and that can create a ripple effect for them.
I think you have a special talent because there's plenty of cool stuff out there, right? There's plenty of cool stuff going on, but I think I'm getting this embodiment, like you're able to really embody and feel and sprout possibility from it. And I think that's a particular skill because, whether it's policy, whatever, you're looking at all the world's problems and they're all written up on the line and you've got to choose one of the 10 and all that. But I think what you do is you're able to actually get emotionally connected to it in a way that then allows creativity to solve it. Because I think that's where we get stuck. Again, you talked about we get stuck in our head, right?
Yeah,
It's a cerebral game. And that's
yeah,
not going to solve things. It's got to come from here and it's got to feel right down lower in the gut, right?
yeah.
So it feels like you're able to line that stuff up and people can find their way to that cause, I guess, in ways that they wouldn't have if they'd just seen, here's a line item. Can everyone please focus on sustainability and can we make 10% cuts? You know what I mean? Like it's like,
Right, right.
that's not it, you know?
Right. It's true. It's a somatic experience. And that means like an embodied experience. It's like, what is the felt experience? Like, what is the sensation that you're feeling in your body? And how do we tap into that versus like the heady, what I should be doing or what someone said I should do or what I want other people want me to say so that I can please them and they can like me. And that's all head versus like, oof, like I feel a sensation in my body. Like, let me just sit with that sensation. Let me understand what it's saying to me and let me authentically, like, really sit with that. And I think we just move so quickly that it goes from here to here. And then when it goes from here to here, and that happens so quickly, it just gets stuck here versus just like, like letting it land and just like holding that for a moment. And that's my practice right now, is just like letting the sensation like be felt. And like I just did a 5 nights in the darkness. I went into a cave in the middle of nowhere in Southern Oregon, where I sat inside a pitch black cave underground for 5 nights, 4 days. And it was the most terrifying thing I have truly ever done, because there's no visual anything to distract me. There was no one to talk to. I was by myself in this cave. And it was just like, you just had to be with everything. You have to be with yourself. And in that process, I got to really witness the slowing down of a thought or a feeling that comes into my body, slowly let it hit as a sensation in my body, and then just witnessed it going from a sensation to a patterned reaction in our brains, to then having it be this patterned response, versus it being like, oh wow, like it's happening. We're just zeros and ones. We're computers, and so it just goes. It happens so quickly. So by the time it comes out, it's a reaction, or it's like some kind of a thing. But we're not being like, ooh, that thing, that the input, what someone said to me, or the thought that I had impacted my body, and let me just sit with that in my body for a second before I get it to my head. I just spit out some random ass thing that's actually over so far removed from what I'm actually feeling inside. And so that's just a practice over and over and over again. And that's one of the things that came through both in the darkness and in the Amazon, when I was sitting in the middle of nowhere, just being with nature. It was just like, wow, like the line that kept coming up to me over and over and over again was, move slowly and you get to meet the moment. Move slowly and you get to meet the moment. Because when we move too quickly, we miss the moment, and we miss the moment, and we miss the moment. But when we move slowly, you get to meet the moment. You get to feel the moment. You get to like sit with the moment, and then like let that impact you in a different way. It's life changing, when we actually let it happen that way.
Wow. Well, you are a greater woman than I am. How did you even know it was 4 days and 4 nights, or five, whatever, because you're in the dark? Like, how did you sense that? Like,
You didn't. You just, well, the people brought you food once a day. So this guy brought you food once a day. So you can kind of between 5 and 8 p.m. So you're like, okay, like it's the evening of the next day. But during the rest of the day, it's going by so slowly. And so
oh,
you're like, I'm in here for 5 years. It feels like the guy hasn't brought me food in like a year. And so it's just really intense. It's really, really intense. It was so intense. Oh my God. But I had so many deep revelations about myself and about just like my own triggers, and it's now just the implementation of it. It's like the integration of it, the implementation of it. And it's like it's a slow unraveling. It's a slow experience.
thank you for sharing that with us. That's amazing. Which brings us to my first question for you. What law would you ban if you ruled the world?
What law would I ban? That, I mean, first specifically, I would say start with women, just the notion that we can't decide what to do with our own bodies. Like we should have full decision as to what to do with our bodies, and no government body should be able to tell us what we can and cannot do with our own bodies. Like this is our body and it's nobody else's. And so I think everything about our body's been politicized in so many ways, and it's just unacceptable. So I would say that's one of them. And that's from a women's perspective. And I think globally, what law would I change? Yeah, I would ban like weapons.
We
Like,
just had that discussion, right? We just had
yeah,
that discussion
yeah,
with kids
you
in
can't.
schools.
Yeah, I mean, my son just, as we were talking earlier, had a bomb scare at his school. And there's like two guards with AK-47s watching my son's like elementary school. And like that should just not be okay. Like it's just ridiculous. And the fact that we live in a conceal and carry state where literally people have just pistols in their jeans. And you're like, what the actual, like, this guy could be crazy and just have one moment of psychosis and just pull his gun out, and you just, and so that's a law I would change. I would literally eliminate all weapons, every
So
weapon.
would solve a lot, wouldn't it? Very,
No, no,
very
like all weapons, like all all weapons, global weapons, all bombs, all nuclear, all guns, if we removed all of them and you have to literally sit across from someone and resolve resolve conflict just verbally looking to someone's eyes, it is a just it's going to change the world. Like the fact that we've built weapons and we're just waiting to press the button, if you don't do this, I'm gonna, that's just not a way to resolve.
No, it isn't. I agree. Let's tap back to your female goal, because I'm just thinking about your book now, which is amazing. So, Disruptor, Disrupt Her. Tell us a couple of key things that you stand for, because you're a fierce female leader in business, also in women's rights, but just as a human being. What are some of the key points from that book that people would enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the book was written because we've just been again indoctrinated to believe so many things, like that money is real, that time is real, that marriage is a construct that's just the way it is. And there's so many systems in the world that like more stuff equals a better life. Like there's all these tropes that exist that like are just made up. And it's just a reminder of like, let's look at the 12 major areas in our life, whether it's money, whether it's career, whether it's relationships, whether it's what your again your relationship to stuff is, like even the concept of feminism, patriarchy, all of those things are just concepts that have been made up. And let's just unpack every single one of these tropes that exist, especially as it relates to you, like your own life. There's like all the major areas, like what you care about, like your family, your friends, money, time, career, like what just your life. So it's looking at every major area in your life and like understanding where the current way of being is and where it came from. Because then when you know where those kinds of tropes come from, you can then inform yourself to be like, I can disrupt that. That's just made up by some guy 100 years ago that we're just believing to be true. And that doesn't work for me. So like, I'm going to try it differently. It's like, as an example, like for like why I started Tushy, we've been led to believe that dry paper properly cleans you. And it's like you're literally imagine if you jumped in your shower, didn't turn the water on, and just used dry toilet paper to like wipe down your body. You're like, you're not clean. And so, how is it that for the dirtiest part of our body, you're taking something that's dry and which is, by the way, trees that literally take in all the carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and turn it into oxygen that we can breathe? I mean, it's the most brilliant billion-year-old technology that we're cutting down to wipe our butts disrespectfully with them that doesn't even properly clean us. And it costs us money every week to buy over and over again, which is what people have conditioned us to do. It's like what the actual, like these conditioned belief systems have to change. And like, and like you don't have to change them, but you have to know that they're a conditioned set of beliefs that aren't true. They're just the way people have been indoctrinated to do something. And so it's once we receive the realization that, wait a minute, that's just not how it's the only way to do it. There's other ways to do it. It creates so much freedom, so much liberation, so much agency, so much self-empowerment to be like, what is it that's true for me when it comes to what I'm doing with my life, what I'm doing with my family, what I'm doing with my career, what I'm doing with my friends, what I'm doing in my relationships? Like, what is it that actually is true to me? Let me like understand where the conditioned beliefs come from. Let me really get that and let me disrupt them for myself one by one. It is so empowering when you do that.
Great, I love that. Let's take a commercial break. Give us a little shout out. Tushy, tell us about the products.
Yeah, I mean, literally, like the Tushy bidet is a modern bidet that attaches to existing toilet and turns any toilet into a bidet in less than 10 minutes. It's under $100 product. It's unlike those really expensive Japanese toilets that sing to you that have too many buttons that are scary. It's literally something that clips onto your existing toilet. It connects to your clean water. It's not connecting to your water bowl or your tank. It's your clean water supply. It comes with a little splitter and a little hose that connects to the bidet. And then all of a sudden, within 10 minutes, you have a bidet that washes your butt clean. It cuts down 80% of toilet paper consumption. So basically, you're using like a little bit to pat dry. We actually have organic bamboo butt towels. In Italy, they don't even use toilet paper. They use towels to pat dry because you're already clean. You're like taking a little shower. So you have your own little towel for his and hers, or you can just use them and reuse them. And then you don't have to have a toilet paper at all. But if you're just starting out and you have a bidet and you want to pat dry, you can use 80% less toilet paper, which saves you money, so much money to the tune of thousands of dollars long term. And you're saving trees and you're clean and you're confident. It's just like such a duh thing. If you're a woman, you're you have your period, or you're pre-sex, post-sex, you're pre-pregnant, you're on your period. If like if you're a man, you have hair back there, you want to be clean. People have chronic UTIs, hemorrhoids, fissures, itching, bacterial vaginosis. Like all those people could be literally like cleaned, and all those ailments will go away and will be reduced significantly when you're just using fresh water than dry paper. Like every type of, if you're an elderly, if you're someone with disabilities, if you care about the planet, if you just care about your health and hygiene, like everyone with a butt should get a Tushy bidet, because it's truly, genuinely the most life-changing thing you can do for yourself. I believe
I love
that.
it. And then I think you've got a little code you can shout out as well, haven't you?
Yeah, you can use my personal code, which is Miki Friend, Miki Friend, and you can get all caps, Miki Friend, all caps. And at checkout, you can get our friend's discount code. And it's truly life-changing. It's game-changing. Like we've sold over 2.2 million units. People love it so much. And they're like, life before Tushy, there's life after Tushy. And I cannot be more of an advocate and more proud of this product. We've saved millions of trees to date. We've helped build out toilets for 60,000 families in India. We funded clean resoiling and reforestry projects all over South America. I'm just extremely proud of this project.
And you haven't stopped there. You are a serial entrepreneur. And we were chatting the other day a little bit about Hero. Now, am I right? Is this your son's name? And is this the name of the company?
Yeah. And so like my first company is called Thinks, which is the period proof underwear brand.
Right.
And then so it's in the period space. And then I started Tushy, which is in like the poop and pee space. And then now I'm starting a company called Hero Technologies, named after my son, which is under sort of like, it's harnessing baby poop as the first product. So it's still in the poop space, but it's harnessing the billions of pounds of baby poop that we're currently just wrapping it in plastic and throwing in the trash, and not harnessing like billions of pounds of potential fertilizer for good. And so the whole vision of Hero is the idea that when a baby poops into the diaper will have dormant, way beneath, it'll never touch the baby, dormant mushrooms that are non-toxic, supernatural, you can eat them, and that are embedded inside the diaper. And by the way, what's inside the diaper is the most toxic part. It's actually embedded in the toxic part, which is good. It's good in the end, long term. So when the baby poops or pees in the diaper, it'll trigger these dormant mushrooms to grow with after a couple of weeks. It'll eat the diaper within a few months instead of 500 years that it currently takes to decompose a diaper in a landfill. And then when you throw these diapers with our mushrooms in it inside landfills, it starts eating all the plastics in landfills too. So there are these little bombs of baby poop and plastic eating mushrooms that end up in landfills that just start eating all the plastics in landfills too. So we're harnessing baby poop and our mushrooms to solve the global plastic crisis.
I mean, this is astonishing. Even just to hear you tell that story, to see how your brain is working. I mean, what the hell? Mushrooms in a diaper, like this is like crazy. And of course, I mean, we're all seeing the seas and all the all the plastic being collected around the world. This is truly astonishing. And I presume, like, do you feel it in you? This is my next thing, and then I will just keep going. I will just keep recreating things until I drop.
No, this is my big magnum opus, and I'm going to be focusing on this for a while because ultimately the global plastic crisis is truly overrunning the world. It's choking our water systems, all of our oceans and our rivers and our water systems, all our corals dying. It's just so toxic for the planet, unfortunately. And 90% of plastic is just being thrown in the trash or incinerated or put in the oceans, and only 10% is being recycled, if that. And so there's a global crisis here. And so ultimately, like, we are going to be taking the plastic of the world and turning it into soil and really hopefully changing the planet, into
I
a
love
really,
it. And in a natural way, right? Like
yeah,
we are so hell bent on running away from nature. Let's
I
recreate
know.
a new world. And we're kind of like, well, what about the one that we're in that we're completely destroying? And yet you go back to nature and we only understand 101 of nature, right?
I know. No one knows how seasons work. No one knows what happens when a dead tree falls down in nature and how it gets, turned into the earth, like, or any animal for that matter. Like, how does that happen? In fact, the mushrooms, the mycelium, the decomposers are the ones that go and they spit out their enzymes. They basically they start the decomposing of the trees, the hardwood trees with tough lignin in them, which is really, really difficult to decompose. So the mushrooms have learned over billions of years how to basically digest the tree and then let the bugs and termites take over and then turn it into soil and it goes back to the earth. It's so beautiful and so powerful, the system that we live in, that we've just forgotten to like touch it in such a beautiful way. So the part of this project is to really, really get people to be back in touch with nature. People are scared of mushrooms. There's a mycophobia, and it's like this: we eat them, they're healing, they help us live 7 years longer if you're actually ingesting mushrooms every day, because on the inside it does such good work on the inside of our systems. On the outside, it's a layer underneath the entire planet is the mycelium network of mushrooms and the fungal kingdom, which basically are the things that let the trees talk to each other. If there's an old dying tree, the mycelium lets basically know that the young tree can basically take all of the nutrients from the old dying tree to it so it can help it grow. And the mycelium network is the one that's doing all that work, and it lives under the entire planet. So people are like, oh, mushrooms. It's like, actually, we eat them, they take care of us, they're the ones that connect us, the one that feed the trees, which is what gives us oxygen to breathe and stay here. It's the first being on earth from billions of years ago that literally took in rocks and digested and turned into soil, which is the foundation for growing our entire natural landscape. People just don't know that. I didn't know that until I started this project. And so I'm so excited to share what I'm learning, truly.
Yeah, and I'm learning so much. I'm having such an avatar moment right now, like just that deep respect for the life of nature and the forest and the whole, the life tree and all of that. That's incredible, which is going to bring us to question number 2. What is the biggest trouble you've been in that you don't regret?
The biggest trouble that I've been in that I don't regret. I mean, I've experienced some like intense, horrific, like attempted takedown, from in the past. And it was really, really painful and really horrific and really hard for me while I was pregnant during this period of time. It was so painful. And it changed my life for the better. Like, I have learned so much more about myself. I've had to do deep inner work to like just get through the trauma of that experience, which then led me to like unpack a lot of other stuff for the rest of my life that was just buried in there. So it was such a deeply like humbling and yet like revelatory experience that I wouldn't change. Like, it was hard, and it was like going through like the crucible of like, what the fuck is happening? But also it was the most life-changing for me, that really allowed me to find deeper empathy for others who are going through similar things. Like, it allowed me to touch the feelings of betrayal, sadness, anger, pain in ways that I wouldn't have been able to touch if I didn't have this kind of experience. And so now I have that, I have the taste, I understand what that feels like. So now when other people feel that, I can meet them, or I can now, before I die, have experienced all the little tastes of life. Like, how lucky am I,
Yeah, I get that. And you talk a lot about struggle right from the war cry, when you're first born, right through life, and this being another example in your life. What advice would you have for people? I mean, obviously you've just sat in it, gone through it, felt it, but in a way you've kind of embraced it. I mean, life as a human is not this, right? You have your highs and then you don't get too high and mighty on it because you know you're going to have
For
different
sure.
experiences. What would your advice be to people, knowing that that's what life has to offer? But I also get the sense that you seek it out. I'm pretty sure your highs are possibly higher than others, your lows are possibly lower, but you're embracing them and taking them all in, and then coming out a more evolved, I don't know if that's the right word, but more, you just experience all of it, right? What would your advice be to others?
I would just say like I would, there's like that saying, like your comfort zone and where the magic happens. Like you've seen that, like that visual. And we just stay so much in our comfort zone because we're so scared of coming out of it and getting taken down or something not working or being ashamed that something didn't work. But like, to who? And why do we care so much? I mean, and there is definitely like, a real evolutionary thing of, if you're getting kicked out of a community, you can die. And
Right.
so that's just not, and yes, like loneliness is one of the greatest epidemics today. It's like, it's horrible. It's a bigger killer than smoking cigarettes and like in those kinds of things, and being obese. Like it's more harmful being lonely. So I get that, but I also really believe in authenticity and our authentic power, authentic voice. And the more authentic we are, like truly, and I know the word authenticity has been like thrown around these days, but like actually being like true to yourself and listening to ourselves, that authenticity will actually take us out of the comfort zone towards the magic and towards harder experiences and towards pushing ourselves past our boundaries of what we believe to be, the boundaries of that safety net, right? Like your comfort zone. But that's where the magic happens over and over and over and over again. And I know that, and I've experienced that over and over again. And while it's really scary to come out of the comfort zone, I came out of my 12-year marriage. I was almost 12 years,
Right.
and on the other side with this 5-year-old kid at the time, he's 6 now, like, the fear of being alone, like what would that be like? I don't know what it's going to be like. And I just trusted myself. And on the other side of it, there's like so much more love and so much more authentic love that speaks to me, that's different than, like again, like the beautiful chapter I had with my ex-husband. It was like amazing. And I've evolved into like wanting something else. And I could have just stayed in the comfort zone of that. Both of us could have, or we both could have just evolved into what we're becoming and who we're becoming. And he and I are deep friends. He just over this morning, obviously dropped my son off, so I didn't, but it just, like it was just like, yeah, we're true to ourselves, and that truth sets us free. It just does. And again, that's like a trope that we hear over and over again, but truth does set us free. It does.
Right. And then when you have these moments where something's perhaps not quite sitting authentically with you, how does that arrive in you? Is it a little feeling, or is it an awareness? Like, is there something that comes in, you're like, oh shit, here we go. Like, how does that land for you?
It's it's just like it's in the gut. You can just, and your heart and the body, like I can just feel it. I can feel it when it's not in alignment. It's like what I say is integrity is when my coach Lauren, who I worked with for 8 years, would always say to me, like, integrity is what you're thinking, feeling, and saying have to align. We can be like, hey, and we're like, bitch, or like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
hurt me,
And
and
it's
you're like,
like not.
yeah. And it's like your head saying bitch, your mouth is saying hey, and your body saying I'm hurt by you. You hurt me. And but I'm still saying hey, I'm putting on a brave face, but like in my head I'm saying you're a bitch for hurting me, but my heart is saying I'm hurt.
Right.
So they're completely misaligned versus just saying I'm hurt. I'm feeling hurt. And then the other person be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't mean to hurt you. Versus just like attacking it or saying something that like, whatever, that's protecting our hearts. And we're such beautiful protectors of our own hearts. But if we can actually share our heart's truth, it's the most important thing. And that's something that I'm learning over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm not perfect, of course. Like there's points where I'm protective and I'm, and I know that every time I drop into my heart, every time it just creates a better outcome every time. More loving closeness. We take steps closer instead of steps further,
Yeah. Very profound. Tell me about the hat. I see you wearing the hat a lot. What does that represent?
Well, I mean, honestly, people ask me all the time. This is kind of a giant hat for sure. I do like wearing giant hats. I'm a tiny little person that wears giant hats, which is kind of funny. But I just feel like it was a lost art. I started wearing hats like 15 years ago, and I was the only person in the rooms always wearing hats, and no one else was wearing hats. And people would come over and be like, nice hat. And so it was always like a nice talking point. It was like a conversation starter. Like, where'd you get the hat? Like, whatever. It was a nice like icebreaker to any conversation. Like as someone who wears like, whatever types of shoes, like nice shoes or like whatever. I don't, like for me, it's hats because it's on my head. And so it does create a nice conversation start. And it's an accessory that I find to be a really beautiful accessory that goes with it creates like, self-expression. It's a form of self-expression. And I have like 40 hats, in my closet that go with my different outfits. And it's just a beautiful form of self-expression.
I love it. And that's probably the main thing that drives me is self-expression. I think that's one of the main things that I love to share with the world is to really help people pull themselves out. So yeah, it's interesting because I look at that and I see a lot of things. I see self-expression, I see individuality, I also see medicine woman, leader. Like it's definitely got all of that vibe for me as well. Like as well as there she is, like, she ain't like the rest of us, which I think is a really really cool thing. I've got a business question for you. So clearly you're a dreamer. Clearly you can piece the world together in a very interesting way that can also turn into business. Are you a good business person in the sense that, there has to be shit that you do in a business sense, or do you hire the team to do it? Or does your brain and body enable you to do that as well?
I mean, I have the best teams around me, and I've learned more and more and more to always surround myself with people who do the things that I'm not good at. And, I definitely have a keen sense for business and timing and what works and what doesn't. But from an executional, operational part, that's not my wheelhouse. And so I have the best operators, the best executors, the best even keel leadership around me that can take a lot of my like, ooh, what about this and what about that? And then they can be like, let me put it in a timeline. Let me make sure it's scheduled. Like we can't, I know you say everything's ASAP. You can't be ASAP right now. This thing will have to go in the next couple of months or the next couple of weeks or whatever. And so I have the right people around me to like take in the input and who are 10 times smarter than me in their own parts. Like I look at my Tushy team and my ops team, my finance team, my leadership team, my creative team, like so much, they have, everyone's got their own ideas, their own perspectives. And it's so fun to just sit there and watch them just share their own magic and their own ideas and their own genius. And I get to be like, wow, like, we work together. This is so cool. And I say the same thing at Hero when I have, it's all these scientists, like bioreactor engineers to microdegradation experts to mycologists to, top people from the, plastic world and top mushroom people all working with me simultaneously. It's just this like, wow, this is, I feel honored, it's an honor. And, so yeah, I really have learned more and more and more to choose wisely. And I think like, I have every single person do a challenge before they get hired. So it's not just like, oh, you sound great, but let me just challenge you and ask you like if then questions, like if this happened, then what would you do? Or if that happened, like solve this problem. If it's a marketing person, like here's a data set, like how would you analyze data set and what would your recommendations be? Or, like all the different types of person, every person on my teams have done challenges, which I think is really important piece of
the real work, right? The real work
yeah,
really show up. We can all look good on paper. Has
that's
any of the products or directions of your business, has it ever gone off track for you and you've needed to pull it back? Or is part of your vetting process of the people around you, your team, your community, so good that actually they get you and so it's always represented?
No, so like, in my book Disruptor, I talk a lot about the scout, and it's the person who is going into the forest alone, and looking for the path to get to the other side, and then they're going to go back and bring the whole tribe over across, right? It's the scout that goes and scouts the land. And the scout isn't like if they run into a log or they run into like bear chasing them or they run into a ravine or they run into something, they're not like, I failed and I'm just going to go back with my tail between my legs. They're going to find a different route. And if that we're going to find a different route, and they're going to find a different route until they find a route that gets you across. And so there's never like the one answer. It's always there's going to be like, oh, I made it this far, but it didn't, I kind of hit a dead end. Let me go back and let me reroute that, but like go this way. Okay, that I hit a dead end here. Let me now go this way. And so there's no like perfection route. It's never going to be perfect. Everything's frontier. We're trying out things brand new always. And so to me, like running into roadblocks and running into things that don't work isn't a failure. To me, it's just like you're learning and growing. And it's just like part of the process. It's the iterative process that's the perfect part. It's not being perfect and getting it right the first time. So I don't consider anything that we do failing. I consider
Right.
everything we do learning and growing.
Right. So here's your final question, and maybe this is already, you've probably already done this actually. Of all the people in the world, living or dead, who would you party with?
Oh, that would probably be Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh, can you imagine?
Yeah, I would love to party with Leonardo da Vinci. He's like, he's
He's,
truly
he's him, right? He is him.
he's the guy, you know, and he's an inventor, a painter, an artist, a thinker, a creative, a writer. He's, a true, he's done it all. And so he's a polymath. And I love polymaths. And I love I've made my first album. So if you go to Spotify, if you look under Soul Gaze, I have a first album that's out. It's called, but the album's called It All Exists, but under our moniker, the Soul Gaze. Me and my girlfriend Happy created this little band. And during my divorce, I wrote 17 songs, and we basically produced 8 of them, and they're now on Spotify, and we have people listening, and it's super fun. And so I love also the creative modality of not just one thing, but I've written 2 books, and I've started a couple companies, and like I like trying different things as well. So he's been a deep inspiration for me.
I get that. And what a great answer. Well, look, as this show closes out, is there any one message or a final word that you would like to share with the Trouble audience? This is people who lean into mischief, defy the status quo,
Yeah.
really reach into themselves and be authentically themselves. What would your advice be to this audience?
Yeah, I just wrote about that in my most recent Instagram post, which is just around comparison. Like I call it the comparison industrial complex. It's such a easy thing to like be comparing ourselves to others. And I think, people who are, probably watching this are kind of forging their own way, but it's so easy to look around and see what people are doing. And we're comparing ourselves to our previous version of ourselves. And if we can do that, we can then become champions of others. We're then like, there's like, comparison is the enemy of happiness. It truly is. When you're comparing yourself to someone else and they're like, oh, they're more beautiful, they're whatever, they're more wealthy, or they're whatever than me, they're more powerful, whatever than me. It just creates a feeling of like yuck, and that yuck actually takes down your light, and that light, that dimming of your light actually prevents you from being the brightest version of yourself possible. But unless you can focus on your own growth, and you're like, wow, like I'm so much more healthier, I'm doing so much better than I did 10 years ago and 5 years ago, and I'm moving forward in my own evolution, and how fucking cool is that? Versus it being like, oh well, I'm caught up to that person, or that person's ahead of me, or this and that, and it just dims our light. And so I would highly recommend that, we that it's so easy to be caught up in the comparison industrial complex, where the marketing world is telling us to do Botox, or to do this, or to do that, or to look prettier, or to be thinner, or take this vitamin and you'll be more youthful, or take that thing and you'll be as successful, or do this or do that. And it's like, we're being marketed to compare ourselves to others, to make ourselves feel bad so that we can buy product. And so if we can look at ourselves, like for me, like starting Thinks and Tushy are literally problem solving needs, like having a dirty butt, like having period accidents, like actually not solving, like using products that don't solve for them. It's not like I'm trying to compare myself. It's like I'm trying to really be clean for myself so I can feel confident, go on a date, and don't feel like I got a smelly down there, you know? And so it's really thinking about our own evolution, like our own evolution, my own, when I compare, come back to my own evolution. When I'm comparing, come back to my own evolution. And that's the key to me. That's the key to happiness and longevity, is like being excited about your own evolution.
Yep, 100%. And then, we can push forward, we can serve more, we can not get caught up in Instagram, TikTok, the whole mental health,
Yeah.
trauma that we're all going through because we're looking sideways. And you're never going to be the skinniest, prettiest, whatever the things are that you're
Sure.
putting yourself up against, the funniest. Well, look, this has been absolutely mind-blowing. I've loved this session with you. It sounds like we can find you almost anywhere, and we'll put all your details up here. You've got website, you've got books, you've got businesses, you're on Spotify. I'm feeling like such an underachiever here, but I'm not going to have that thought because that would be comparison. And
Yeah.
so I would just like to thank you for sharing your heart, your soul, some of your amazing thoughts and what make you so incredible as a disruptor in this world and a troublemaker in my words. So thank you so much. You're amazing, and I wish you all the best.
Awesome. And if you want to find me, like I'm most on Instagram from a responding perspective, or I post my own, like mostly my own stuff on Instagram. LinkedIn is all like more businessy stuff. But my Instagram is where I really share my personal stuff. So check it out.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Have a great day. Enjoy your son, and I hope to meet you one day. So
same. Yeah, same. Awesome.
Thanks, Miki.
Thank you.
I hope you took a trouble tip from this episode. If so, ring the bell, like it, follow it, and share it. But most importantly, put the lessons into action in your life, in what you do. Remember, you are the beacon of hope. You are somebody's hero. So ignite that spark within, fly in the face of normality, put your spin on things, follow the call of the disco ball, and solve new problems. I love you. Now go stir up some trouble.